Does that reflection and does that pivot point, how does that take forms in multiple worlds? And how would that take form in our world that's maybe slightly different from your world?
Well, it has taken form in your world, and the way that it was different is that it has expanded over time through multiple teachers rather than simply one particular historical event. So the idea of Shekinah in our world can be expressed on your world as the idea we have discussed many times of what you archetypally refer to as either Christ consciousness or Buddha nature or Krishna spirit or many other ideas of master teachers in different cultures on your planet spread out over time, all delivering similar messages that have a cumulative effect, leading you to this point of transition now where you bring that information with you and you make it work for you in an accelerated way. For us, it simply only needed to happen in one particular moment. For you, it's stretched out over time.
Understood. So it's just time for us to get along with it.
Yes.
Excellent. My next question is going through this chrysalis time when people are experiencing such resistance and heaviness right now with maybe the shadow of physical reality during this time. What is, and you know, I like how you were talking about many of the biblical references during this time of forgiveness in the Lord's Prayer. Yes. And the idea of it's hard for quote unquote, I know this is a metaphor and not exact, but for a rich man to get into heaven is challenging, but that just denotes to fear-based systems and greed.
Yes, it's only talking about the idea of negative versions of attachment. It's not talking about whether you actually have physical wealth.
Yes.
It's talking about the accoutrements that often go with it that are fear-based.
Yes.
And so that's why we bring up the idea of the eye of the needle.
Yes. So during this time of this ascension process, it really seems to be, while people are going through a lot of financial hardship, it's about staying present with your energy and doing what you can do in your excitement, regardless of what happens. So it's the circumstances don't matter, is showing us more and more extreme ability and options to exercise this truth for us.
Yes, as long as you stay aligned with your integrity in terms of the actions that you take and strip away the idea of the fear-based beliefs, then you will streamline yourself to make it more feasible, more probable for you to go through the narrow passage of the eye of the needle and come out the other side in a more accelerated way and in a closer version to your true self.
Excellent. And through all the teachings of all the esoteric wisdoms of the mystery schools of all ages, all the practices from the very beginning, maybe from the teachings of the sages and the extraterrestrials, all have been leading us to awaken our dormant genetic material.
Yes.
Yes. So really just, it's the time to really be more convicted than ever than spiritual practice and internal cultivation and development and letting go of the external.
And in physical application. Yes. Remember that physical action is the language of physical reality. And if you're not actually taking actions that are representative of that spiritual awareness internally, then you're not speaking a language that anyone can hear.
Yes. Oftentimes I have a little bit of fear, maybe going back to past sessions where you talk about as the years go on and the energy accelerates, that you don't want to get left behind. So stay in that frequency. So I might have created, I want to be very careful of not jinxing myself or helping others unjinx themselves.
But watch the idea of the definition that you're holding on to, because the very thought that you can jinx yourself is part of what we're talking about that might be wise to let go of. And just assume that if you do your best, you'll be fine.
Got you. So don't second guess yourself. Stay in a state of conviction of knowing.
Yes, the idea of using the phrase being left behind is actually just another way of saying you're making your choices. You're making your decisions as to what you say you prefer to align with. That's all it means. So you will experience the consequences of your choices. That's all it means. So if you make choices that are more in alignment with who you really prefer to be, then it's not about framing it or phrasing it in the manner of being left behind. You will be in the reality that you chose to be in. And if it's the best you can do in terms of the choices you make, you'll be fine.
Excellent. I love that. And with the release of the Pentagon releasing UFO footage for the first time, has that brought your ship a little closer, perhaps?
Tiny bit.
Just a little bit?
Because it's just the beginning.
It's just the beginning. Because there's been an increase in UFO activity, has there not?
No, there has been an increase of your awareness of the activity that's going on all the time, and that's a big difference.
Excellent. And through all these changes,
yes,
as the stock market, like personally, I've been playing the stock market gains and losing, and I'm using this experience to neutralize and accept my decisions and not getting hard on myself.
All right.
Using this as a valid exploration of self-mastery to keep.
You can certainly do that, but again, please do remember not to ignore all other forms of abundance.
Yes, absolutely, which is the most important. And I see maybe that's a big issue with people that play the stock market is focusing too much on the financials when there's so much more beauty to it.
Because your stocks can rise with synchronicity. Your stocks can rise with being given gifts. Your stocks can rise with your imagination. Your stocks can rise in your ability to trade for what you need. Stocks can rise in all these forms and other forms of abundance. There is not only one stock market.
Wow, I love that. Going back to the idea of remembering your value and investing in yourself during this
Absolutely. And that comes with what? Appreciation.
Yes.
It's not an accident that you use these same terms for the idea of your financial reality. Appreciation, valuation, so on and so forth. These are things you need to give yourself so that your stocks will rise.
Excellent. Bashar, I had a powerful dream the other night of an anaconda.
Yes.
And it was very powerful because this anaconda was very calm and peaceful. And a bunch of little kittens were running around as well. And we all had a wonderful time enjoying each other's company. Can you speak a little bit more about the anaconda and the representation of the symbology in the dream?
The archetypal symbology has to do with connecting to ancient wisdom and the idea of unfolding some of the dormant DNA structures.
Wonderful. So
it is not an accident that your caduceus is two intertwined snakes, which is the idea of the genetic markers of DNA.
Yes, which is a symbol that I feel is really misunderstood this day and age, as it's a symbol of, on most hospitals, but a lot of people have forgotten and don't even know any clue about the ancient meanings and the history of where this comes from.
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe that's a big education for us to take place, to educate the lineage of where these things come from, of those great teachers, probably from, Tote himself. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And others as well.
So in the idea that caduceus, as far as pinnacle health and evolution of DNA and genetic material, this is all coming back to the idea of the internal state of consciousness, and vibration is the first thing to consider as far as health.
Yes. And it will open up more of the markers within your genetic makeup that will allow you to extend your senses into other dimensional realms, hence the kitten.
Wonderful.
Because cats can see into other dimensions.
So even the kitten has a representation. Maybe all the different animals have a representation of what can be had in the expansion of our senses.
And we just actually dealt with that particular question with another person.
Cool. So this goes back to the idea of the cryptic and merging with nature and connecting greater with nature.
It goes forward to that, yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. And the last question I have, as far as the world is going and finances, that
which world? The one you're in, or the one you're simply observing that is simply vibrationally incompatible with what you prefer, that you can see but are not part of? Which world?
I guess the world that I'm seeing that's slowly coming, that a lot of people might have negative belief systems about, as far as the IMF making a world currency.
But again, you navigate yourself with your actions in following the formula and following your passion. You navigate yourself through the parallel reality timelines that are representative more and more of the world you prefer. Remember, again, you don't change the world you're on. You change yourself and you shift to another version of Earth that coexists simultaneously with the one you used to be on. That one continues in its own way. And again, just because you might be able to observe portions of it, you're looking through a glass wall that separates that reality from the one that you are choosing to live in. So even though you can see it, it doesn't have the ability to get through the wall to affect you unless you choose to be affected and shift yourself and tunnel yourself through that wall to the other reality. So learn from what you're seeing as a way of contrasting what you do and don't prefer, and know that you are, through your actions and your vibrational choices, in the reality you prefer, regardless of what you see around you happening in other realities you don't live in.
Wonderful. Taking full ownership of your vibration and your conviction and confidence.
Because just because you can observe a reality you don't prefer doesn't mean you're part of it. If you remain neutral in your observation.
Excellent. So playing with the stock market, I have to be very careful that I don't fall into that collective traditional Wall Street energy.
It's not about being careful, because again, that implies that you might accidentally slip instead of just continue to make conscious choices about what you prefer.
Excellent, Bashar.
Watch your definitions.
Thank you so much. That helps me extremely much, and I'm always extremely grateful to interact with you and love you very much. Thank you.
Then we extremely and unconditionally love you as well.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Innovations. Today, the modern classical music is even much more dissonant, discordant, strident, shrill, sometimes even ear-splitting. Is it that the contemporary classical music is turning to an abstract, mental, neurotic construction, or is it that contemporary classical music is going to a higher frequency of vibration, which is difficult to comprehend and to adjust from our planet and our human ears? Thank you so much, Bashar. You are a tremendous inspiration in my life. Goodbye.
The question you are asking, the answer to that is both. There are things that are representative of realities that are splitting off, that are more disharmonious and discordant, and there are realities where higher frequencies are creating more harmony and representative of an upliftment of energy and vibrational states. Now, that doesn't mean that discordant music now and then can't be applied for positive purposes. So it may not completely be eliminated, even from the reality where things are becoming more harmonious and integrated. And it doesn't mean that harmonies can't be utilized even in some of the discordant realities that might be reflective of the notes that you are saying are more strident. So you have to kind of take it on a case-by-case basis, but in the overall sense, yes, you may find that certain realities and individuals that might be experiencing more disharmony and discord within themselves might relate more easily to the idea of the discordant music, but it might be capable of being utilized as a guiding light and a reminder, or a guiding sound, if you wish, and a reminder of the discord that may exist within themselves if they choose to use it that way. But the basic and simple answer is both are true. Are you there?
Hi, sorry, Bashar, I am here.
All right, good day, good day.
Good day, Ha'a too, and thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you for the interaction. Please proceed.
Thank you. Thank you for the technique, the meditation you gave at the beginning there.
Well, I haven't given the meditation yet.
Indeed,
well, I've only told you the components of it. But yes,
of course,
you're welcome.
So one of my questions is, I find it challenging to actually act on my passion, to live my passion.
Which is what?
I find it sometimes challenging to know. Excuse me?
You say to act on your passion, which is what? Can you be specific?
Well, in any given circumstance, and more generally in terms of things like creative pursuits or
Oh, all right. But it's actually quite nonsensical, and I actually don't believe you can't do it, because you're doing it right now. We assume that you're having this conversation because this particular action contained some degree of excitement for you more than any other option at this moment. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
So you can do it, and you are doing it. It's just that you have a definition that makes it seem more difficult than it needs to be. Please do remember, and we'll get to the other stuff in a moment, but please do remember, when we talk about acting on your passion, it doesn't have to be a big project, a life-spanning career. We're talking about every single moment. There is always an option that contains even just the tiniest bit more excitement, attractiveness, curiosity than any other that you have more capability of acting on than any other. So you may find that sometimes talking to a friend or reading a book or eating a meal or watching a film, any of the typical daily things that contains even just the tiniest bit more attractiveness or excitement is the one to do first. That's what we mean fundamentally by always act on your passion. And if you start on that level, on an everyday level, it can build up. It might snowball into bigger and bigger and bigger opportunities being presented to you that you can also act on that might also be representative of your passion. But you don't have to make a bigger deal out of it than it needs to be at the beginning. So there doesn't need to be confusion, because it's just about choosing what seems more exciting than anything else and act on it to the best you can until you can act on it no further. That's all it means. Does that help start to clarify the concept?
I appreciate that, and it's something that I've been aware of, and I do get into a space where I ask myself, okay, what's the next most exciting thing?
All right, but I assume we're having this conversation because there are times when you choose to get out of that space. Why would that be?
There's times when I don't ask myself that question.
Why not?
I think when I do ask myself that question, sometimes the answer doesn't become apparent. I'm not sure which is the most exciting option. And I feel like I can overthink it perhaps. And
yes, many people on your planet do that, overthink it, overcomplicate it. Remember that if things seem equal in excitement or equal in your ability to act on them, you might as well then just flip a coin. And what I just said to the last person can apply to you. It doesn't then matter if all things appear equal, which one you take first. You might as well flip a coin. A, I'll go this way. B, I'll choose that. Because if that's not your path of least resistance, synchronicity will turn you around to the other path that is. You have to really understand how synchronicity works as a guiding and organizing principle in order to relax and let the flow happen naturally and let the signals and the messages from synchronicity be obvious. But if you overthink it, you're only going to confuse yourself, and you're going to blind yourself to what synchronicity is attempting to do to make it clearer as to which way to go and what to act on at any given moment. Is that helping?
That's helpful. Yes, thank you.
Is there a but at the end of that sentence?
Well, I mean, because excitement, as you've spoken about, can be an emotion. Many different emotions can be passion, can be love, can be a sense of calmness.
Yes.
So if we have different options which contain the different emotions,
yes,
sometimes for me that can be hard to navigate.
I just explained that. I'll explain it again more clearly if you wish. You don't always, when you find something that seems more exciting than anything else, or things that seem equally exciting in different ways, you don't always have the same ability to act on them. That's another way to tell which one to act on first. But as I just said, if you do discover that 2 things or 3 things seem equally exciting, equally attractive, and you have the ability equally to act on any of them, then it doesn't matter which one you choose first, because if it's not the one that serves you best, synchronicity will create situations that turn you around to the one that is. So what difference does it make if you can't tell the difference, since synchronicity will actually be your compass needle to guide you? So why worry about it?
It was more a case of if something feels sort of nurturing to me, and maybe another option feels more exciting in a different way,
Yes.
then
What's the difference? As long as you're clear as to why you feel the way you do based on your belief system, because we understand, I'm not saying this is the case with you, but just to explain, you say, well, one feels nurturing and one feels exciting. Either of those are fine, aren't they? Yes, no?
yeah, that's true.
So what difference
Yeah,
does it
that's-
make?
that's-
As long as you're clear that the idea you're now describing as nurturing isn't an avoidance. Do you understand? Because sometimes people will create the idea of, oh, well, this feels more nurturing, but what they're really doing is saying, I'm too scared to go the other way, so I'll choose the one that sort of feels safe to me. That's why you have to be very clear about what you believe in order to understand why you feel what you feel in any case, in any situation. So, fine, one choice seems nurturing, which is fine. Another seems more exciting, which is fine. Those can be equal things. But ask yourself, why does this feel nurturing? Why does this feel exciting? And in that investigation, you may find that there's enough of a difference for you to be able to make a choice more clearly. Because you may find that the nurturing is from an avoidance or something else that's a negative belief, and vice versa. So the idea is when you clear yourself as to why you have the feelings you have, and if it turns out that both truly are from a natural state or expression of your passion, then again, we go back to it doesn't matter which one you choose first, you might as well flip a coin. Does that help?
Okay. It does. Yeah, it does help. Thank you.
Yes. We're trying to simplify this for you.
Yeah, because there's basically an option in my life which, although it's not exciting, it provides a level of support which will mean I can then go on to do more exciting things potentially.
All right, but again, be careful, because what you just said sounds like you're saying, well, if I do this, I'll get that. That's not how you act on your excitement. You're making that conditional now in the way you just phrased it. Oh, I'll do this because it's going to get me somewhere else. That's not the reason to act on your excitement, and therefore that may be your first clue that that may not be the most exciting thing, because all you're talking about it is as a means to an end, and not the thing in and of itself that's exciting. Remember, excitement has to be acted on for its own sake purely, because that thing is exciting to you. So in other words, you have to be excited about feeling nurtured, not just use the idea of being in a nurtured space to get you somewhere else more exciting. You're making conditions there.
Yeah.
And you're invalidating the nurturing as nothing more than a means to an end and not a thing unto itself that you're actually excited about. Does that help clarify the choice?
Yeah, that helps me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, would you please be willing to describe your solar system?
Well, yes, you can find that to some degree also in the documentary that was done. But the idea is that we have a star like you do, which is called Shaw. And we are, like you, the third planet from the star. There is a small planet closer, another planet second. We are Ethithani, which is third. We are about 111 million of your miles from our star. Our year is longer than yours because our orbit is wider. Our day is about the same length, what you would call 24 hours, but our year is 454 days. Then there is a fourth planet, but then we have a large planet called Vamar, which is not in the ecliptic. In other words, its orbit goes like this, up and down, through the plane of our solar system. And then we have what might be referred to as a double planet, Chachupani. That has two planets that are gravitationally locked, orbiting each other, and in orbiting each other, they also go in an orbit around the star, dancing with each other, which is what Chachupani means, the dancers. That's a brief description of our solar system. But remember, we're in a parallel reality. You can't see our star from your reality. You would have to make a shift to our vibrational reality in order to see our solar system, in the same way that we have to shift to your vibrational reality in order to perceive your solar system physically. Does that help?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much, Bashar, and much love to you guys.
And you as well. Good day.
Good day.